So I had just look at this thing here. I had just had lunch. My mom usually comes over for lunch. We'll have it with Duke. She had left. Duke was at school, and so I went on X, and I immediately started watching some video, and then of course I double team X and I scroll on the phone while I'm watching the video. You know how these things. Let me know if you may do the same thing as that. And I see this while I'm scrolling. I see Charlie Kirk has been shot. I'm like, fuck, that's crazy. And so, phone down, refresh iPad. So this is a warning too. The video that was on the phone was a far away shot, right? And it still had a jarring effect. You could see like it looked like someone got shot, obviously. And so when I went to refresh X, and immediately a video came up. And this is a warning to anyone who hasn't seen these videos. Do not. I know it's hard once someone says do not watch this video or do not do this things. You always basically want to do that thing, but I'm imploring you, do not watch that video because it basically, like I wasn't prepared for it. Like, listen, I've seen 100 snuff like films on X. Anytime in my feed, there's some, two people on a motorcycle in Brazil that get shot for stealing a cell phone. You know what I'm talking about. We've seen all these things. So they're to a certain degree, desensitized to that level of violence, like the ending of someone's life, like on your phone, right? So I implore you, do not watch that video because I was sitting there by myself and I actually went, oh my God, when I saw it. It was like, I couldn't believe that had just happened. And then so I was like, this is unbelievable. When you think of all and of course I'm a lunatic, right? So I immediately go into my lane, from the shock. Like I think I'm still in shock. And this is the weird part about it is that I wonder how many people actually know who Charlie Kirk is, or even, how important of a voice he was, whatever aisle you sit on, an important voice is an important voice, especially someone with the intellect. Like, so I started thinking, what's the percentage of the population that's smart? Like less than 1%. Like he had the sharpest intellect, I think, maybe I've ever seen. I don't know if I've seen someone who was so smart and so eloquent when it came to debating anybody about anything. And so I thought of the ritual, how everything is some sort of cult-like ritual. And then so this horror in front of college kids, like, I mean, this family was there too. His family was there. I'm like, well, how many times has his family been there? It's kind of like, remember in Butler, like how many times CNBC and anyone had covered his rallies was like 0. And then the one that he was assassinated, it had full coverage, right? As part of this cult-like shame ritual, and the horror that they like to instill in people. And I think, well, how many? I know he like, and then you think about he's a dad, right? That maybe that's to me it hit the most, that these poor little girls, will grow up without a dad, and like what a dad, what a great You can imagine the good things. And then all you got to do is keep scrolling X and you will see people in celebration. Not monsters, like when you hear someone would be in celebration of this, you think it'd be a monster, right? But these are like bird brain dimwit girls on TikTok, dancing. And here's the layer of depravity. On TikTok, instead of saying things to jog, the censor, to avoid the censor, they'll just put music on and put the edit. So it's just, them dancing with the edit. And that's what they are, because they don't want to, jog the algorithm. They want people to see this. I was like, I can't believe that. It's so gross, and I start wondering, well, where are we in this? We're definitely in a new timeline today. And so, these numbers are so important to these cults, right? 9/11, here we are, 9/11. And then what are I started thinking about a month or two ago, it's like, things are heating up now, and maybe they're heating up because 9/11's coming, right? And so maybe things were just generally heating up. But to me, I was baptized into the red pill, so to speak, by 9/11. That was my baptismal moment when it came to the lane I'm now in. Arguably, it led me to Bitcoin, really. But it was 9/11, and I never let it go. You can't let that type of insanity go, right? Now it dissipates, kind of like the pyramids. I'll think about the pyramids for months, and then I'll slowly stop thinking about the pyramids, but they'll come back again. Same with 9/11. And so here we are, 9/11, and now the feed is not filled with in memorial to 9/11. Obviously it's filled with tributes to Charlie Kirk and diss videos. And in a weird way, is to be expected almost. Like, this is why I think we're on a different timeline now. Before this horrific incident, people dancing on people's graves was somewhat, I don't know, permitted. It was allowed, with no repercussion. You could sit there and dance on someone's grave and nobody, it's like, oh, well. I think that's different now, because there was a humanity to Charlie Kirk that no matter what you agreed with or didn't agree with, he stood on some incredibly wholesome, moving humanity forward platforms. He was a man of deep, deep, deep faith, right? I wonder, these people are dancing on his graves, where they lie on that. And so this is why we're on a different timeline. And the road to redemption is always open. When I think of, let's call it Charlie Kirk's lane. The road to redemption is always over. You wouldn't see anyone in Charlie Kirk's lane really dancing on a grave, because I think there was this consensus that all we have to do is convince them of a certain amount of truth, and then the truth will guide them where they need to go. It was never like, we need to trick you or gaslight you or pound it into your brain that this is the way you should think or go to hell, right? It was not really Charlie Kirk's lane. So I think what's going to happen now is that it's going to wake the F up a lot of sleeping giants the way 9/11 woke me up. I was never the same after 9/11. It infected me like a virus, and I still have it, and I'll never get rid of it. It will be be with me to my dying day. It will certainly frame my decisions when it comes to big geopolitical moves. Scotty Mo says Charlie stood for everything they hate: faith, family, and freedom. Not to mention onboarding millions of youthful voters. Yes, true. And then you got to go down the. When we're in this lane, we got to think. When you have a voice like that, onboarding so many people, like the people that he would onboard are people that are on the fence or just lost in Yonkers, right? Like I saw it happen on many of his videos where he would just slowly pick the argument apart to led the person to see the different aspect of it, right? And then from there, that person could either deny it or maybe it infected them a little bit to do a little more thinking. Yeah. And that's what he did. And I thought he did in such an incredible way. Like, I don't know. This, one of the tragedies, I think, when someone like this is assassinated is like, it's not like a career politician that, spent 40 years doing nothing in Congress. Like, he was an autodidact that was probably smarter than most PhDs that you'd see. Now, was it true? Yeah, I guess. I don't know. He was definitely smarter than most politicians. Like, can you imagine? This is where my lunatic lane starts to happen. Like, I could see someone like that, like Charlie Kirk, kind of entering into politics eventually, right? With a base and an influence like that, it would just be a shoo-in probably for him to. Now, I don't know whether he had any plans for it, but you could see how that would happen. In a weird way, he was like a band that was going to get a record deal because of his following. The only way bands get record deals is that they look at your YouTube and your social feeds. Oh, they got 1 million followers. Okay, we'll sign them. Right. So, when it comes to influence, I don't think there was anyone with a bigger grasp on the younger generation than Charlie Kirk. So he would have ended up probably entering politics and probably winning. And now you got to say, I always say these people, they run intergenerational long games, right? Not only do they plan decades in advance for themselves, they also plan defense decades in advance. Well, we can't. This movement is growing. We got to put a lid on it, because what was cute and grassroots has now become an epic movement. We can't have it. Lasers go pew pew. I lost friends over my beliefs that are now truth because of 9/11. Yeah, well, you can. Benji, my heart has been so heavy since I got a 4K. Yeah, it's a real That's why I say is like, could I walk down the street and ask everyone that goes by, do you know Charlie Kirk was shot? And I wonder if they would even know, because I always think that I'm in such a bubble, that no one really knows anything. They're just like, what? Who's that? You have to admit, I bet you a lot of people don't even know who he is, right? But man, was he was a powerful individual. So going down that lane of him eventually becoming a politician, can you imagine someone that smart in that position of power? Like, it's never been like that. Imagine imagine the debate between him and anyone, any politician, and Charlie Kirk. You know how they do the debates? It's like presidential debate Tuesday, and then has like some puppet from CNN moderating. No matter what the national narrative would be, there's no way anybody would be beating Charlie Kirk. Imagine that presidential debate, Charlie Kirk. And that's what the world will miss, because that's what the world can't get to. I don't think the powers that be could allow, imagine a man of deep faith, huge intellect, becoming being put into a position of that power. I don't think it's ever done. Or I don't think it's ever been done. Not that I remember. To me, they're all just puppets and actors. And maybe that's the reason why someone like that doesn't get into it, because they realize they can't have someone like that, and they got to put a lid on it, right? Anyway, it's I do believe it has changed the timeline. Just like this is why it's so crazy. It's on 9/11, right? Obviously, it was yesterday, 9/10, but here we are. The world is waking up, literally and metaphorically on 9/11 again. And I think life will be different moving forward for all of us who knew Charlie Kirk, who watched his videos, who, like I've watched his videos for years, because I'm like that meme. I'm a simple man. I see Charlie Kirk or Andrew Wilson and I click, right? I like displays of intellect. To me, I don't know. I find it fascinating how someone can be such a rhetorical genius, so to speak. It's amazing to me, and maybe that's why the majority of people don't really care, because that probably wouldn't interest them. But yeah, I wasn't going to make a video, but I thought it was such a crazy thing that happened yesterday, that thought I'd just give my 2 takes on it, on what's going on. It's like I almost don't know what to say. Like, these assassinations come and go. We're almost desensitized to it. But there was a definite humanity to this one, because he wasn't a puppet. He had made his own, from what I know, he had made his own massive platform and following. Obviously, he had help. Everyone else helped. Who knows where the money comes from? I'm just saying that he grew it. It's not like he wasn't doing the work. He was what was he really saying that was so crazy bad when you really think about it? And this is where the sleeping giants will slowly, rouge, so to speak, like become red-pilled, when they start thinking, why would someone do this? Like, why was he so bad? And then they go investigate, like, why was he so bad? And what are they going to find? What are they going to find that he's so bad? And that's why it'll be a rude awakening for both the movements, left and right, so to speak. I still can't understand. Like, I just had a conversation on Sunday with someone who wanted this very thing for somebody else. This is a normal man, right? And I've seen the videos where people are like are dancing on his grave and saying they would do the same thing. Like, this is insanity. But I just had a conversation with someone saying the same thing about someone else, that's called the leader of the free world. He said that this should happen. I'm like, you can't say that. You can't. Not only, like, you can say it, but you can't really feel that way. You can't really think that, I was asking the person genuinely, like, you can't really think that, can you? And of course he did, wholeheartedly. And that's where this mass formation hypnosis comes in. And it's undeniable. Like, you see it. It's almost like Stepford Wives, but the Gen Pop, just walking around as, just regurgitating the insanity. It's so bizarre. And I think what's going to happen in the next little while, you will see some breakdowns of, Like, to me, it was like military grade professional hit. You know, I think they'll try to frame it like it was a wacko, but you have to look into the trajectory and the angles of how a bullet hits with such precision under a tent. You know, like this is not someone just grabbing something and going up on a roof and hoping for the best. This is like military grade professional. And if you look at it was like a Greek amphitheater of sorts. So there was a point where it just didn't make sense, an angle. But, you know, I'm not a forensic investigator. I'm just saying these are the things that will probably come out and dispel some of the things that are going on. A couple people were arrested. They weren't the person. And then, you know, you'll see today, if you go on X, you'll see like the video of the private plane being flown off 20 minutes later that turns off its radar. I don't even know if you can turn off a radar. You know, me being a dummy, I just see the video. Oh, he turned off the radar. Maybe you can. I don't know. Maybe you can. I didn't know you can. Did anybody? Does anybody know if you can turn off the radar on a plane? I would think that you can't. Scotty Moe, he was a highly intelligent human and intellectually spoke his mind and opinions and didn't insult people in a debate. Let them speak their mind, and his responses were truth for their ridiculous ideology. Yeah, like that was the crazy part, you know, like he just wanted to engage in good faith debate, you know. Let's hear why. Let's hear your reasons why, you know, and then he would basically turn them inside out with, you know, truth and logic. And that's where, you know, I've been thinking the past few days about the benevolence of power and how it's something that can only be instituted through generational. So what I mean by that is, like, if there's generations of power, there becomes a benevolence, understanding how some people have and some people have not, right? But, you know, when it comes to the Charlie Kirk lane, there was a benevolence there, just like, well, let's hear what you have to say, you know. And then if you go to the other lane, whatever that lane is, it's either it's gaslighting and you have to, or F you. You know, there's no, I want to hear your side. You know, you'll never hear this portion of people saying, explain your side to me. It'll just be like, I don't want to hear it. F off. Right. So Curtis Neal, certain low altitude, I think it can go undetected. Yeah. Yeah. But this is, so I understand that, but this was, this video, if you look for it, it's and who knows, maybe it's a video of some arbitrary private plane, you know, and they put the narrative in, this plane is gone, right? So you got smoke and mirrors everywhere. But this video was trying to say that there's a plane that was flying and it shut off its radar. Whatever, right? Who knows? Anyway, maybe we'll put a cork in that aspect of Wick's wife. These constant acts of violence are an outrage and a disgrace, but nothing will change, so it's okay. Yeah. I think this is a moment of change, though. I think there's certain things that happen on this kabuki theater stage that has unintended consequences. You know, the law of unintended consequences come in. And to a certain degree, I think that's what we're seeing and feeling today. Maybe the news cycle will wash it away. Who knows? Bobby Hoyos. Further society drifts from the truth, the more it will hate those who speak it. Yeah. 100%. I do have some TA. But it all seems so pointless. You know what I mean? Like the summer bummer, you know, mad at the price. mad at the markets, mad at the institutions buying, mad at the price going down. It seems so stupid, you know, like when you really think of what's important, you realize how unimportant it really is. Our timeline, watching the charts, watching the price. Why isn't the price going to sticking that the price? Do something. You know, like one of the most important things that I basically run my life is on time, right? How important time as a currency is. So no one knows it is the only finite currency that will ever be. And you don't know how much time you have. And so spend it wisely, because when it's gone, it's gone. Make sure you like and subscribe.